The upcoming Morbius project has largely fallen by the wayside as hype for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness seems to dominate most Marvel fan spaces. But while many avid enthusiasts are overlooking the debut of the living vampire, recent reports seems to claim that the release of Morbius will be far more significant for the future of not just Sony's Spider-Man universe, but the multiverse as a whole. While we are aware that Morbius is a Sony property, and by all accounts is not currently linked to the MCU, we know that Sony and Disney are currently working together to build the ever-expanding web of the multiverse. And with both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield making the leap into the MCU, it seems like virtually anything is fair game. Recently, it has been confirmed that Morbius not only takes place in the same universe as both Venom films, but it also has been confirmed that there is in fact an iteration of Spider-Man in this universe. Though the question still remains, which of the three main live-action iterations of Peter Parker inhabits this universe of Morbius, if any of them? Well, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's discuss the likelihood that each respective Spider-Man might appear in Morbius or in the future of the Venom franchise, as we try to break down and discover which of the three main Spider-Men may exist in the Venom/Morbius universe now that we know for a fact one does exist. Hopefully by the end of this video, we may have a better idea of which of the three main Spider-Men will exist in the Morbius and Venomverse. The first option is Tom Holland's iteration of the iconic webhead, which seems to be an easy dismiss given the evidence available to us and is obviously the least likely of the three. Outright basically almost impossible at this point, but let's go ahead and break down why for the sake of conversation. While we know that Adrian Toomes the Vulture will be seen at some point in the project, seemingly tying it to the MCU.
Yeah, Dr. Mike, you and I should stay in touch.
There is an overwhelming amount of evidence to disprove the idea that this projects take place within the main MCU timeline. For one, let's speak in universe to start, we know that Venom was pulled from his universe into the mainline MCU in No Way Home. But does this automatically mean that the iteration of Spider-Man in the universe will not be played by Tom Holland? Not necessarily. While it's admittedly very unlikely for Tom Holland to play two different iterations of Spider-Man, Venom did seem to recognize the famed wall crawler upon his arrival to the MCU. Hinting that Tom Holland might bear a resemblance to the Spider-Man of his own universe. However, again, this theory is unlikely. We also know that since Michael Keaton will be reprising his role as Adrian Toomes, there are three distinct possibilities for what might play out here. The first is that this is the MCU iteration of Toomes and the Vulture, who was pulled into the multiverse at some point during the multiversal breaks. And if he has been pulled into the multiverse, then it's theoretically possible that Tom Holland may have been as well. But again, we find this option to be unlikely. The second is that this is a multiversal variant of Toomes from Morbius's home universe, and just so happens to be closely related to the point of resembling his MCU counterpart. Therefore, this logic could theoretically be applied to Tom Holland, and this brand new iteration of the character of Spider-Man could be played by the same actor that already exists in the MCU, in order to avoid introducing a fourth live-action Peter Parker in the course of just 2 short decades. The final option is that Morbius is in the MCU at this specific point in the film, though he will not spend the bulk of his time in the movie in the Marvel Universe, and there is evidence to suggest that this might actually be the case. Throughout the Morbius trailer, we find evidence that Morbius takes place in no less than 4 separate cinematic universes, leading many, including ourselves, to speculate that Morbius will actually be taking place during the breaks in the multiverse, and will visit multiple universes throughout the film. However, we also think that this theory may also be unlikely. We do have a full video planned on this later, and the fact that Morbius may actually be jumping universes over the course of the film, so stay tuned later for that on the channel. However, again, we believe that it is not likely for Tom Holland's version of the webhead to be present in the Morbius universe. Now, let's get into the meat of this video. The second candidate is the original live-action iteration and one of the godfathers of the modern superhero genre as we know it. We are of course talking about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who made his debut as Peter Parker all the way back in 2002. In the Morbius trailer, we see a graffitied mural of Spider-Man, who appears to be modeled after the Sam Raimi iteration of the character from the original Sony franchise. This seems to hint that Morbius might actually be a continuation of the Raimi trilogy, but again, there's evidence to also dispute this claim. Since it's been been confirmed that Morbius takes place in the same universe as the modern Venom franchise, it seems unlikely that in this Raimi-verse that we would be seeing a different Eddie Brock and a Venom which already exists thanks to Spider-Man 3. The original Topher Grace iteration was first seen all the way back in 2007, and this mural seems to indicate that our previous theory about Morbius crossing universes might hold additional weight. This leaves, of course, Andrew Garfield's iteration from the Mark Webb universe, who has recently seen a resurgence in popularity following his appearance in No Way Home with the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, seeing a spike in notoriety as well as people watching it after the lackluster reception of the second entry in the cancelled franchise. By far and a huge margin, it is most likely that Morbius and Venom take place in this Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man universe. There is more evidence to suggest that the upcoming Morbius film might be a continuation of this original universe. There are, however, two primary pieces of contradictory evidence to suggest that the two universes can't coexist, which need to be briefly addressed in this video. The first problem is the presence of the Venom symbiote in the post-credit scene of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and seeing as we saw the origin of the Clintar and Venom, this would likely entail a minor retcon. The second is the fact that Venom seems to recognize Spider-Man in the post-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage, indicating that the two might have had some sort of shared history with one another. But there are multiple ways to explain this away in recognition without spoiling the logic of No Way Home when Andrew Garfield states that he's never fought an alien.
Yeah, he was purple.
I want to fight an alien.
And doesn't recognize Tobey Maguire's description of Venom. The reasoning why this could make sense feeds off of the multiversal hive mind that the symbiotes and the Clintar share.
Light years of hive knowledge across universes would explode your tiny little brain.
As it could be easily explained away that Venom recognized Spider-Man courtesy of one of his multiversal counterparts, perhaps even Topher Grace's Venom from 2007. This even goes along with what a lot of the directors and people that worked on No Way Home explained as to exactly why Venom recognized Spider-Man, so this theory seems to be confirmed. This maintains continuity of never having the two meet until after Andrew Garfield returns home to his home universe, as well as gives Andrew Garfield the proper continuation of his franchise. We can see the Oscorp building visible in the Morbius trailer, and this seems to be the same structure as the Webb universe in both Amazing Spider-Man films. While this might support the theory that Morbius will cross between realities, it's still theoretically possible that this shot is from Morbius's home timeline, one that might include Andrew Garfield as the main iteration of Spider-Man. Given how the fanbase has been adamant to see a continuation of Garfield's interpretation and the logic seems to make sense, it may be a really intelligent move for them to merge both universes and merge this iteration of Peter Parker into the Venom Morbius verse. And it appears as if Sony is already beginning to make these moves. And with the backdrop of the multiversal calamity interfering with multiple cinematic universes, these minor inconsistencies can easily be explained away in any number of feasible ways. This would mean that if any of the three main live-action Spider-Man franchises are to be paired with the Sony universe, the Amazing Spider-Man franchise seems to not only make the most logical sense, but maybe the most feasible to execute if Sony does not want to introduce a fourth live-action iteration of Spider-Man, which I don't believe that they will. So there you have it, friends. What do you think of this idea that it is in fact Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man that exists in the Venom and Morbius verse? And when do you think that all of these franchises will be officially paired, with Andrew Garfield returning as the character yet again? And do you think that he is the Spider-Man in the modern Sony verse? And if so, what storylines would you like to see play out? As always, my friends, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.